Ed Cafino here on behalf of Pass the Wire. We're at the Oklahoma training track, just a few weeks away from the Saratoga meet. And, we had an opportunity this morning to meet with trainer Gary Contessa. Gary spoke about his step away from the game a few years ago and what made him come back, which he really never did leave. He just came back to full-time training.
You know that everybody I when I left, I didn't really retire. I was just really annoyed with the way the Department of Labor treated the trainers back in back in 2018. They came in and just tore our world and turned it upside down. So I left training, and then the pandemic hit. But I wasn't really retired. I've always managed Brightview Farm. I've managed Brightview Farm for Christine Connolly for 30 years. I managed Bell Gable Stable, and Bell Gable asked me if I would train his horses. And I went back into training shortly after I left New York Racing as a private trainer for Bell Gable in the Mid-Atlantic region. So I didn't really leave. But it's a funny thing about this business. If you're not on the big stage, people don't notice you. So a lot of people didn't even realize I was training horses in Delaware. I made Bell Gable Stable the leading owner down there for the 2 years that we stabled in Delaware. And people thought I wasn't even in the picture because nobody was watching what's going on at Delaware. People watch what's happening in New York, Florida, California, Oakland. So I didn't really retire. I left training for a couple months. Then the pandemic hit, and nobody knew what was going to happen then. And I was busy. My other businesses during the pandemic were arcades. I owned an arcade in Lake George, owned one in Colony, and the pandemic turned the arcade business upside down too. So I kind of lost everything. But I realized in my little bit of time away from the racetrack that this is my happy place. This is what I want to do. I love to train horses. I know horses. I don't like the real world, the business world, the dog eat dog, business, outside the racing industry. This is where my heart is. This is where my soul is. And this is where my happiness is. So I came back to training for Bell Gable. And when he decided to downsize, I went back to some of my old owners and picked up a string to bring to Saratoga last year.
We got to speak to him a little bit about two of his stake-winning horses, Nutella Fella and Becky's Joker. Both of them very promising. Nutella Fella just came back and placed third, as Gary said, ran his eyeballs out in the Woody Stevens. And Becky's Joker is, as you will hear from him, just a huge horse, Zenyatta-like big. Let's talk real briefly about the Belmont Festival week here. You had your horse, Nutella Fella, that ran in the Woody Stevens, ran third against a pretty tough field. First race in, I think, about 8 months. How's he doing? And then maybe share with us some of your other horses that you're excited about for this upcoming Saratoga meet.
Sure. I think the Belmont Festival was an absolute success. I have never seen more people. I've been here 40 years. I never saw more people at the races in one day than on Belmont Day. And I think that, and I hate to say this, but I think the fans up here embrace racing way more than the fans do on Long Island. So I would vote to have the Belmont here every year because I just think that the people up here really embraced it, and it was an amazing 4 days. And I loved it. I loved seeing it. I loved being a part of it. It was just incredible. As for Nutella Fella, he ran his eyeballs out. I mean, with a little bit, it's a big field, 12-horse field, and he's a dead left field closer. So it's not all about just closing, it's negotiating traffic. And he negotiated traffic, lost a lot of ground. Meanwhile, the winner was having a beautiful trip, and we were just bearing down on him, didn't quite get there. But he ran a hell of a race. He ran a 96 Beyer for those people who like Beyers. He ran an 8 on the sheets. I mean, he really ran his eyeballs out. And with any luck, God willing, we'll see him in the 8 Jerkins here, which is a grade 1 going 7/8. I think he's a lot like his father, Run Happy. He's got that same build. He's almost like quarter horsey. He's not that big, leggy kind of horse that acts like they want to go a mile and a quarter. I believe someday, and we'll figure that out in baby steps, he's going to hit the distance wall. Like his best distance might be like his father's, 7/8. Run Happy was the best horse at 7/8. Maybe he'll get a mile. Maybe he'll get a mile and 16th. We'll slowly take the opportunity to see how far he can go.
Well, he's got Candy Ride on the bottom too, so
Yeah.
Candy Ride can run on dirt, wet, turf.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of options with him. You know, his career has been a short one. He's only had 3 starts in his life.
Right.
A grade 1 win, 2 wins and a third, and he could have won that race the other day.
Well, you got the hopeful flowers back behind you here. So
I do.
That was a huge win. His second start out.
Yeah.
Big win. Beat a couple of good horses in that race.
And I think the other day he stamped himself as a true good horse. He was 20-1 the other day because people said, well, maybe the hopeful was a fluke. I think he showed them that the hopeful wasn't a fluke. And he's going to be a really good horse to look forward to having.
And then you got a nice string of horses up here.
Yeah.
Speak about a couple other ones that you're looking forward to.
Becky's Joker, she won first time out. She won the Schuylerville last year, grade 3. She also, after the spin-away, needed some time off. And she just mentally fell apart on me last year. She's 17 hands tall. She is a monster. She came back in the 3/4 Jersey Girl Stakes, kind of got outrun early and came running a little bit, not quite as impressive as Nutella Fella, but she ran 4th in there. And I think she showed us that day she wants to go a little further. So we're pointing her for the Wilton Stakes on the 12th of July, which is a flat mile. And I think that's going to hit her. Being 17 hands, you can't sprint all your life. Her nose is in the front of the gate. Her butt is touching the back of the gate. So a smaller horse, if you watch the way horses break out of the gate, a smaller horse throws all its weight onto its haunches behind and then jumps out of the gate. She can't do that because her butt is sitting on the back gate. So she has to just kind of break flat-footed, and that's always going to cost her in a sprint. Hopefully going a mile and an eighth, she's going to find herself this year. So I look forward to seeing her this year. And we have the usual bag of some 2-year-olds that I like. I have a horse called Dew, who trained very well on the grass over here the other day. He ran in a dirt race, Belmont Week, and he's kind of a nice little 2-year-old, and I think he's going to find himself on the grass. Have a couple New York bred 2-year-olds, and then a couple other older horses that I think are going to come around and give us a little fun this year.
Becky's Joker last year and Nutella Fella last year, and then him coming back and running a big race a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about like that sort of underdog role that they both played, and Nutella Fella still even plays, 20-1, but was able to run up there with a 96 buyer.
Well, we all know that when you're the underdog, there's no pressure. The pressure's on the guy that's 3-5, 9-5, 8-5. I'm 20-1 in that race, and I'm loving the way he trained. I mean, anybody that asked me before that race, I said, this horse is ready to run. I left nothing on the table. A lot of trainers like to say, I think we should have one more work, or I wish he looks a little fat to me. No, I had this horse dead ready to run, and it's a lot of fun having a horse like that in the barn. He has got heart. If you go back to his first start at Delaware, it was for a different trainer. The guy did a great job. He did everything wrong, and he won. Then he comes back in the hopeful, does everything wrong, and he wins. Then he comes back into Woody Stevens. Again, he wasn't the best gate horse. That's his Achilles heel. He doesn't like to be in the gate. They kind of got left in the gate and had to make up a lot of ground, and he ran his eyeballs out again. So it's nice having the underdog. I don't have any problem with that, and I think we're going to prove. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up an Eclipse Award sprinter one day. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, but I think he's headed in that direction, and he could be that kind of horse. As far as Becky's Joker goes, I bought her as a weanling, Philippe Coik. Sent her to Tailor Made Farm. The day she got there, Frank Taylor said to me, Gary, she's too big. So I said, okay, Frank, let's keep that between us. And then we tried to sell her as a yearling, and everybody that looked at her said, Gary, she's too big. We're not going to sell her. So I bought her for $130,000. She barely got to 100 at the yearling price. So then we took her back. And Lee Pecoig is the most patient guy in the world. He doesn't care if he sells them or he doesn't. The horses that we keep are the ones we race, like Sippercan Harbor, won a grade 1, Becky's Joker. So they all work for me, the ones that we keep. And we took it to the 2-year-old sale. She worked 10 flat in the Ocala sale. Everybody that looked at her said, she's too big. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to get to train this one. Everybody thinks she's too big. Sure enough, she brings 130 in the Ocala sale. We were into it by that point. We were into it for 200. And we decided not to sell her, and we took it to the track. And everybody kept saying to us, she's too big, she's too big. We took her to the gate to school. She's really big, Gary. I know, I could tell. She's too big. Okay, first time out, she wins the Schuylerville, grade 3, and she is too big. There's no question about it. She is big. A lot of big fillies don't mature like she did. And Lee Pecoig comes to the winner's circle, and we've been hearing too big, too big, too big. He's on the phone. We're taking our pictures like, she's too big, she's too big. He's talking to Tailor Made Farm telling him she's too big. Meanwhile, one thing we all know, Tailor Made knows it, I know it, anybody that's ever been around horses knows it, there is an exception to every rule. And she's the exception to the too big rule. And that makes her an underdog too. She's too big. Everybody that looks at her says, oh my God. She's Zenyatta type big. And you know what? She too has only had 3 starts in her life. Her future is in front of her, not behind her. And she's already a graded stakes winner. So her ovaries are already worth $500,000, $1 million, if she never runs again. But I think as we stretch her out in distance, she's just going to get better and better.
Well, Gary, look, we at Pass the Wire appreciate your time as always, and best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you in the winner's circle again.
Happy to talk to you guys, and I love your work.
Stay tuned with us at Pass the Wire. We're going to be doing some full coverage here from Saratoga throughout the meet. We're going to have a weekly handicapping show highlighting the big stakes races on Saturdays, and hopefully some other great interviews for you guys to enjoy.